everyone, welcome to Filofax Friday. This week I wanted us to look at our goals again and re-evaluating our goals. Okay, so week one, very first week of Filofax Friday, way back in January. Cast your minds, I know you've been to sleep since then. But we looked at setting goals for ourselves, either small daily to-do goals or something a bit more grand scheme using a goal planner. Now I've been lazy and I haven't cut it out. I just printed a fresh one off for this video. So it's been nearly 3 months, not quite, but nearly 3 months. So I thought now would be a really good time to kind of go back and look over some of those goals that we set ourselves way back in January. If you're doing the daily to-do goals, then obviously in theory you're doing that on a daily and a weekly basis, and you're ticking them off, you're checking them off as you go, and that's fine. I'm talking about the kind of the bigger picture goals here, because in theory those smaller ones, like clean the bathroom, do that, in theory they've either been done or they're now surplus to requirements. So I'm talking about the bigger goals that you set yourself, probably on this insert here. If you didn't get this insert, go back to week one. I'll pop a link in the description below. As I always do, in the description below there's always the link to the corresponding blog post that goes with this video. And in the blog post there is always this video, obviously, a little bit more writing about this video, and there's always homework. So if you are planning along with us, go back to the blog and check your homework. And if there is a download for that week, because there's not always a download every week, some weeks there isn't even any homework, but most weeks there is homework. I'm gonna continue to do Filofax Fridays as long as I have content. Most of the weeks there'll be homework, some of the weeks there'll be a download. It just depends on the content of the week and kind of what I'm going to do that week. So if you want this insert, go and check out the blog post, which I'll pop down below. I'm not going to go through this insert in today's video because I went through it in week one, and that's just repetition. So 3 months along then, wow. What has happened in 3 months? Can you remember? Have you been firefighting? Has it been a slow year, start to the year? Our lives get so busy, and things happen, things change, the path that we're on changes, and it's really good to just take stock every now and then and kind of reevaluate who you are, what you're doing, where you're going, where you want to be, all of those kind of things. And some people, they kind of turn their noses up a little bit, think, oh, that's not interested in that. But it's really good for us all to continue to evolve, and to continue to grow as individuals and as wives and husbands and mothers and fathers, and to continue to grow as a person. It's really good to keep going back and reevaluating, and it's those goals that push us forward in life. It's those dreams, those that desire to want to do something. That's what keeps us pushing and keeps us going in life. So it's really good to go back and reevaluate them. And that is what I want us to look at this week. I want us to go back to those bigger goals, those kind of monthly, quarterly, yearly, lifetime goals that we set ourselves back in the early, back in January. I want us to go back and look at those now. And I've got 6 questions that I want you to ask yourself. I want you to go back to your list, really look through, and I want you to look at the goals that haven't been achieved. Because if you've achieved your goals, you can tick them off and you can move them away. You may want to, if you have achieved those goals, you may want to sort of, keep them for journaling purposes, that kind of thing. But if your goals have been completed, we don't have to worry about those because they're done, and hopefully you've had time to reflect on those, and that's all good. So we're really concerned about the goals that we haven't yet achieved, the ones that are still sitting on our list. Go and print off another one of these if needs be, so that you can kind of get rid of the stuff that is no longer relevant and, you know, put all the fresh new ones on here. So let's start asking ourselves some questions. Okay, so I want you to be truly honest with yourselves, because these are your personal goals, no one else's, and, you know, there's no point cheating yourself, you know, and you'll know. So I want you to be truly honest with yourself, and this is only for the benefit of you and those around you, maybe. So, number one, I want you to ask yourself, what barriers, remember we're looking at the goals that are still on our list, not the ones that are checked off. So what barriers are in the way of achieving your goal? Are they real barriers, or is it just you being scared? We put barriers in place all the time. If we want to do something but we're a little bit scared of the outcome, we'll put barriers in the way, you know, and sometimes they're not real barriers. So I want you to be honest with yourself. Are there any barriers in the way of achieving your goals? And are they ones that you've put in place yourself? If there is ones that you put in the way yourself, remove them. How can you remove them? You know, is it because you've always wanted to learn to drive, but it's just a bit too scared? Well, what can you do to remove those fear barriers that you put in place? Sorry, I've got itchy nose. Hay fever's coming on. You know, so look at ways in which you can remove those barriers, because they're not healthy. If looking at them, there are barriers that you have put in place, perhaps because you're scared, go back and look at your goal and see if you can kind of break it down a bit more into bite-sized pieces. Maybe when you've looked back at the goal, you've realised that it's huge and it just seems too overwhelming, in which case go back and see if you can chunk it down into much more manageable pieces. If it's a barrier that truly exists, then again, look at things that you can do to kind of remove them. If learning to drive and being able to drive and get a car, the barrier to that is finances, because obviously it's expensive to take driving lessons, what can you do to remove that barrier? So would it be, you know, is there any wiggle room in your finances where you can start to kind of put some money aside to save? Or, you know, can you have a good clear out of the house and maybe purge a few things on eBay to kind of save some money? Or, you know, is it worth getting a little extra job to save the money? You know, those kind of things. Because if say, for example, money is your barrier to learning to drive, there are ways around that. So it's just kind of looking at those barriers and kind of seeing what you can do about those. But if it's barriers you put in yourself, please take them away. There's nothing to be scared of. You know, maybe you perhaps need to seek, you know, obviously I'm not this is just my opinion, and I'm not a professional in, you know, certain areas. So, you know, you may need to seek sort of like professional help if it's all sort of emotional response, kind of some barriers and triggers for you. You may want to, you know, seek professional help. So just kind of look at that and just be careful with yourselves as well. So. Number two, what actions have you taken realistically? Being realistic, what actions have you taken in the last week or the last month to move your goal forward? Have you taken any? Can you take any? That's what I want you to ask yourself. And if the answer to that question is no, then why not? And what can you do to move it forward? Is it still a goal that you want to pursue? That's always worth asking yourself. But have you taken any steps? If not, why not? And maybe look at, you know, diarising something in that you can do, like next week I'm going to do this, or next month I'm going to do this, just to help push your goal along. Number three, do you need to rework your original goal? You know, do you? Think about this, because things change, things move on, our lives change, when, you know, we're not the same person we were 3 months ago, or other events have taken place, you know. Did you want to save up and buy that sports car, and now actually you're pregnant with twins and you need a bigger car? You know, that kind of thing. That was just a plucking it out of thin air thing. So, you know, things in our lives change, and sometimes the goals may not even be relevant now. So, have a look at that and see if your life's moved on, and change your plans accordingly. Number four, do you struggle with the execution of your goal? And again, you need to ask yourself why that is. Start really thinking about that and kind of go back to your goals, reevaluate, replan. Number 5, do you need to use any resources towards your goal? So are you struggling with those resources? Are you not able to push things forward because you're waiting for someone to do something for you? Maybe you could work at kind of pushing those forward, maybe speaking to that person, or again, you know, like do whatever it needs to kind of push things forward, but don't just stagnate on it. You know, obviously there are certain things that you can't always do, but you know, try and do whatever you can and try and push them forward if you can. Number 6 and final one, does your original goal still excite you? Do you still have the passion for it? Because if it doesn't excite you anymore and you don't need to do it, then why have it as a goal? For example, if one of your goals is to go and trek Mount Kilimanjaro, and that's what you set in January because you were thinking, this is my year to get fit and healthy and I'm going to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and now you kind of look at it and going, yeah, no, that's far too extreme. Then ditch it. Don't just leave it sitting on here, making you feel bad about yourself, making you feel depressed. Ditch it. If it's no longer relevant to you, if you don't have the passion for it anymore, ditch it. Obviously, if it's things like maybe learning to drive, that obviously would have an impact maybe on family life or your ability to get certain jobs. So obviously it's a little bit tricky. But that being said, try and find the excitement and the passion in it, thinking that, I don't know what you're motivated in, but think that maybe, yeah, if I learn to drive, I can then take myself off to wherever for the day and do some shopping, and I can reward myself in that. So by learning to drive, I can do this, or, you know, just try and find out what motivates you and what your kind of passions and what excites you are. And if it's a goal that you have to do rather than want to do, try and kind of drum up some excitement in that for you. So that's excuse me, so that's that. Try and go back, the stuff will be on the blog. Try and ask yourself those questions. Really go back to your goals, really try and look at reevaluating those goals and perhaps coming up with some new ones or more relevant ones. But just keep doing it. Just keep going back to them every now and then. It doesn't hurt. You know, if the weather's warming up now, well, it is here in England anyway. Take your cup of tea out in the garden and just sit for 5 minutes and go through. Take stock of your life and where you're going. Just try and do that once a month, once a week, whenever. You know, it doesn't hurt to kind of just keep track of them. And if it's depressing you because those goals seem so unachievable and it's having a more negative effect, either work out whether you really need them, and if not, ditch them, or break them down into more manageable pieces so that it becomes more achievable, because there's such a great sense of satisfaction in ticking off and knowing that you've achieved certain goals. So there we go. Go and enjoy re-looking at your goals, re-evaluating. Go and get the sheet if you haven't got it, or print off a new one if you have got it, and re-evaluate your goals, people. Have fun with it. Remember, it's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be time invested in you, and it's just, you know, to kind of help you, motivate you and keep you on track. And yes, I am always this perky most of the time. Annoying, aren't I? So yeah, have fun with it. Bye. Oh, one last thing. I just wanted to give you a quote from Confucius, and that is, when it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps. Food for thought. See you next week. Bye.